Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to today's presentation, Fear None, Frighten None. Today, we are delighted to have all of you join us today. This event here today is one of our annual online events that we do in conjunction with Civic. Civic is a leadership retreat that we run for 2 weeks in the summer in beautiful British Columbia, from where I am broadcasting to you today. This will give you a bit of a taste as to what we talk about at Civic. The types of things we talk about, the way we talk about it, how we interact, how we learn from one another. We have two of our track leads here today with us. We have Jasleen Gaur, who is our track lead for Sikhi 201, and we have Santhveer Singh, who is our track lead for Sikhi 101. As we go through today, you are going to have the opportunity to reflect, think, ask questions, and interact with some of the other participants that are here today. So I'm very excited to have you all here today. This is a little piece of us for all to incorporate with you in your lives and do a little bit of thinking with us here today. I'm going to go through a couple of little housekeeping items before we get started. There's some rules here, and I guess rules sound a little bit harsh, but these are more some guidelines, community guidelines that we have at Civic that we'd like to share with you here as well. And so this is just to ensure that we have a caring and loving community, that we're here to work and be inspired from one another and learn. So we'll go through some of those things. We'll give you a bit of the shape of the next couple of hours together here. And then I will turn this over to all of you. So I'm going to keep my intros fairly short today, and we'll get started here. So to start off today, a couple of things about civic culture. So this is something that is really important to us at Civic. The utmost thing that we focus on here is that this is a safe space, because especially when we're talking about topics that are quite intense. A lot of us have a lot of opinions, and which is amazing, and it's great and it's wonderful, and we get to share those opinions. But we also have to ensure that sometimes the opinion that you're listening to may not be one that you agree with or you align with. And so we just need to be mindful of being respectful to the viewpoints of others. You know, you never know, maybe you hear something that you're like, I was very much against it, but now that the person has started to talk, I'm starting to learn a little bit more about this. So just be mindful of the language that you use and the tone in which you say things in. But really, this is a space that everyone should feel comfortable voicing those opinions and even asking the questions. I know at Civic at times, sometimes people are like, oh, I don't know if I should ask this question. Maybe this sounds like a silly question. Maybe everybody else knows it and I don't know it. Guaranteed somebody else also is wondering the same thing. And so best to get that question out there. So this is what we've really endeavored to do here, is to create a space where those questions that you didn't know where else to ask can be brought up here. Now, that doesn't mean we always have all the answers. Sometimes we'll come back to you with another question. But it is the opportunity for you to engage in conversation around things. Having said all that, we want you to enjoy this. This is really for your learning. This is for your interaction and experience with the content. And we hope you leave here today inspired and possibly even full of more questions, because it tends to spur on more ideas and more thoughts as you go along. So before we get started, just like we start every day at Civic as well, we do like to start with a Hookum and reflection on Hookum. And for that, I will invite Santhveer Singh onto the screen here to give us our Hookum for today.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So before we begin with the Hookum reflection, I just wanted to take a minute to talk about the Hookum reflection. When we start any event, we always like to start by looking at the Hukamnama of the day. And we look at the Hukamnama that was given at Sri Harmandir Sahib in Amritsar Sahib. And the reason why we use that Hukamnama is because it's sort of a Bantik Hukamnama for the whole Bant. And it's something that a lot of Sikhs around the world will read every day to start off their day. If they don't have Guru Granth Sahib Ji in their own house, or they're not able to go to the Gurdwara every morning, they will instead read the Hukamnama from Harmandir Sahib. And so this Hukamnama is also a way to bring the community together in a lot of ways. And here at SikhRI, we always like to start our programs with a Hukam reflection just to center ourselves, to bring ourselves in connection to Guru Granth Sahib Ji and Shabad Guru, in order to build that relationship with Shabad Guru, which is what we are all looking for. The Hukam today was a beautiful Hukam by Guru Nanak Sahib Ji in Tanasri Rag. And it's a Hukam that is an Astpadi, which means that it's At Poriya, 8 Poris long, along with 1.5 line. And I'll just read the first line and the first Pori and the How line. And then we will go through a really quick sort of overview of the Hukam. Tanasri Mahalla Pella Kar Duja Aspadiya IkOankar Satgur Prasad Guru Sagar Ratni Parpure Amrit Sant Chuge Nahi Dure Har Ras Jog Chuge Prabh Pave Sarvar Me Hans Pran Pat Pave Kya Bag Bapra Chapri Nae Kichad Dube Mel Na Jaye Rahau. So what is this Hukamnama talking about? What are the big themes of this Hukamnama? Let's look at the first 2 lines first of all, the first 40, sorry. Those first 4 lines. And it starts off by saying that the Guru or Vaheguru is the ocean. And it's not just any ocean, it's an ocean filled with pearls, meaning that Vaheguru is an ocean filled with guns, filled with virtues, filled with beautiful things that we can praise, that we can connect with, that we can fall in love with. And those people who are in love with Vaheguru, who are in love with the Guru, they don't go far. They don't leave that place. They stay there close to the water. Amrit Sant Chuge Nahi Dure. Oh, dur nahi jante. They don't go far away from this Amrit, this Amrit which is contained within this ocean. Hadas Chog Chuge Prabhave. They feel the love of Vaheguru Prabhave, and they taste the essence of Vaheguru. And that's a really interesting word that Guru Nanak Sahib Ji is using there, is jog, ras jogana, that they taste the essence of Vaheguru. It's a very sensory act. It's one where Vaheguru is being made very real to these people who are connected to Vaheguru. They are experiencing Vaheguru in a very real way, not in a metaphorical way, simply, not in an intellectual way, but in a very emotionally deep and resounding way. They are actually experiencing Vaheguru. And within this ocean, there are swans. And those swans are these sants, these people who are connected to Vaheguru, who are in love with Vaheguru. Sarva me hans pran pat pave. So Guru Nanak Sahib Ji starts off the Aspadi by talking about the people who are in love with Vaheguru and the nature of Vaheguru. Vaheguru as an ocean, this metaphor that will continue on throughout the Shabad. And then Vaheguru talks about the nature of people like myself, people who are disconnected from Vaheguru, people who, instead of bathing in this beautiful ocean full of pearls, full of Amrit, are instead bathing in a mud puddle, in a chapri. So Guru Nanak Sahib Ji says that people like myself, kya bag bapra chapri nai, the poor crane, the sort of useless crane, is what can it do? It takes a bath in the chapad, in the muddy puddle. Kichad dube mel na jave. And it sinks into the mud, into the muck. It sinks into it. And its filth, its male and najai, its filth does not wash away. In fact, it is covered in more filth, this crane. And the sort of juxtaposition between a crane and a swan is one that appears often in Guru Granth Sahib Ji, with the crane representing those of us who are connected to our own minds, who are looking inwards, who are not looking inwards, who are looking towards, who are in the thrall of Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, and Hankar, and who are not connected to the Vaheguru within instead. Those who are connected to Vaheguru, those who are in love with Vaheguru, are usually in juxtaposed to the crane, are referred to as the swan. So there's a difference between the swan and the crane-like behavior. And what Guru Nanak Sahib Ji is saying is, don't behave like the crane. Don't sit in the muck, in the mire, in the puddle, in the pool of mud. Instead, bathe yourself, cleanse yourself in the beautiful ocean of Vaheguru Sahib Ji. Be a swan, don't be a crane. Let's take a look at some of the other lines. They're not up on the screen, but I'll just go through them very quickly. I thought there were a few lines in here that were quite interesting. The next body begins, Rakh rakh charan tare vichari, dubda chhod pe nirankari. So Rakh rakh charan, it means that charan means feet, tare vichari, that the person who is swan-like, they take their steps very thoughtfully. They don't just place their feet anywhere. They really think about where their feet are going to go, where they're going to step, because they don't want to do something that disconnects them from Vaheguru. They want to always be in love with Vaheguru, and being in love with Vaheguru means acting in Vaheguru's Hookum. It means behaving according to the way that Vaheguru behaves. Dubda chhod pe nirankari. So Dubda is really the main theme here, is leaving Dubda, leaving duality, leaving that sense of me and Vaheguru are separate, are distant, are apart, leaving that behind, and instead becoming a follower, becoming a lover of Nirankar, that Vaheguru which has no form. And so this is the beauty of what Guru Nanak Sahib Ji is telling us in this Hukam, is leave that duality, dubda chhod pe nirankari, and instead become a Sikh of the Nirankar. A couple of lines down at the end of the third pori, Guru Sahib Ji he writes, Sarvar me Hans, Hans me Sagar, Akat Katha Gurbachani Adar. Guru Sahib Ji says that the hunts are in the pool, but it's not just that the hunts are in the pool is inside the hunts, is inside the swan. Sarvar me Hans, Hans me Sagar. This is a really revolutionary idea of Guru Nanak Sahib Ji, which is that this Vaheguru that you seek, this beautiful ocean of pearls and amrit that you are looking for, that we're all looking for, is not something that's far away, not something that we have to travel towards, not something that we have to go through great effort to find. It is, in fact, within us the whole time. What a beautiful idea. This idea that what we're looking for is within us right now. We just need to lift that veil of separation that separates us from Vaheguru, to realize that the Vaheguru that we are looking for is, in fact, within us this entire time. Guru Sahib Ji earlier said that Vaheguru is Nirankar, Nirankar meaning without form. And to emphasize that form, Guru Nanak Sahib Ji says something very important in the fourth pori. He says, Nad na purkh kaho kaho kaise. He says Vaheguru is not Nad nor purkh kaho kaho kaise. So Vaheguru is neither male nor female, neither female or male. And how can I describe this Vaheguru? It is impossible to describe, because it is a formless being. So this is a core tenet of Sikhi, this idea that Vaheguru is without form. Vaheguru is neither is genderless. Vaheguru, it does not have a sex. Vaheguru is beyond physical constraints. And so when we think of Vaheguru, even though the translations often portray Vaheguru as a he or him, in fact, Bani refers to Vaheguru by both female and male pronouns, because Vaheguru is both male and female and neither at the same time. And that's what Guru Nanak Sahib Ji is emphasizing in this line. Napur kaho go kaise. That how can I describe Vaheguru? Vaheguru is in fact outside of this realm of physical attributes. And this is again emphasizing that idea that Vaheguru is within us, not something that is far from us. And I'll just look at one more line before we wrap up today with the Hookum reflection. And we'll look at the last 40, the 8th 40 of this Hookum, of the Ashtapadi that makes up this Hookum. Sache nirmal mail na lage, gur ke sabad parampo page. So how do you become true and perfect and beautiful? How do you get it? How do you become so that that dirt, that mud does not stick to you, does not trap you, does not weigh you down? Well, Guru Nanak Sahib Ji says it's very simple. Gur ke sabad parampo page. It's through the Guru Shabad that the param, the doubt, the po, the fear, page, that they depart. It's through Guru Shabad that you become immaculate and pure, and that the filth does not stick to you, that mud and muck and mire does not stick to you. It's through Guru Shabad. And that's really the end line of this Shabad, is Guru Nanak Sahib Ji emphasizing again that the way to find that Vaheguru within, that Sarva, that Sagar within us, in order to become swan-like, we must have the kirpa, the blessing, the tutelage, the wisdom, the guidance of a Guru. And the Guru gives us that guidance and that wisdom. And that's hopefully what we will be doing today in our online Sidak talk, is that we will be looking at some of the wisdom of one of the Gurus, Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji Maharaj. And we'll be looking at Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji's life and his Bani and trying to see what wisdom, what knowledge we can gain from Guru Sahib Ji's writing and life so that we can become swan-like, hopefully. So thank you for your time. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.